save the day. And if you think we can, we'll always find a way.
Hey guys, welcome to my review for A Silent Voice. Now this manga series was recommended to me on my August pickups video, and it was only 7 volumes long, so I decided to check it out, and now I'm here to bring you guys my thoughts on it. So A Silent Voice is a manga series created by Yoshitoki Oima, and it was serialized in weekly shonen magazines from 2013 to 2014. The main story follows our protagonist Shoya Ishida, and man, the first volume in this series is crazy. It's a little hard to read, to be honest. Basically, it starts off with Shoya in elementary school. He is in grade 6, and one day a new classmate arrives, and she is deaf. Now this girl's name is Shoko Nisha Mia, and she's a pretty sweet girl. I mean, she tries to make friends with everyone. She's deaf, so she learns sign language, and just wants to be friends with everyone. She's a really nice girl. Now, like I said before, Shoko is deaf. She can just barely hear with hearing aids. She cannot speak very well, and she likes to communicate through sign language and writing notes. Now, this will obviously change the way that school works for all of these students, because they basically have to work around the fact that she is deaf and cannot learn the same way the other students learn. Now, many of the students, including Shoya, consider her to be a nuisance, and now at this time, Shoya, he's pretty much the class clown. He does a whole bunch of crazy stuff, but oh my god, okay, I would usually maybe save this for the character section of the review, but it's a huge elephant in the room right now, and I have to address it. In the first volume of this series, Shoya Ishida has to be the most unlikable character I have ever witnessed. The things he does to this deaf girl are completely unfathomable. Like, you will absolutely hate this guy's guts. Like, she does get bullied by the other students, but what this guy does is just on a completely different level, and it is completely unforgivable. And what's even worse is that Shoko is such a nice girl, and she tries to be friends with everyone, but this guy is just such a complete dirtbag. Oh my god, I don't even want to talk about this anymore. In fact, if you're familiar with the popular manga reviewer Chibi Reviews, he recently uploaded a video that was a rant talking about this guy. He was like reading through the first volume, and he just had to stop and rant about how much of a douchebag this character is at the beginning, because it's crazy. Now, his actions eventually lead Shoko to transfer schools. And because of this, pretty much everyone of Shoya's classmates hate him, including the readers, of course. And for the next 6 years of Shoya's life, he just lives in complete isolation and is full of regret for what he did back when he was in 6th grade. He is now in his final year of high school, and he has not had a single friend since the incident that happened 6 years ago. He knows what he did was unforgivable, and he knows that there is no way he can take it back, and eventually it leads him to want to give up on life. And the day he is planning to commit suicide, as fate would have it, he runs into Shoko Nisha Mia for the first time in 6 years. And this is when the real story begins. Now, this series is unlike anything I have ever read before. It is so unique, and the fact that it is published in a shonen magazine is pretty crazy, because I mean, right now I'm reading through Bakuman, and just to know like the process of how, manga gets serialized in shonen magazines, like, it is very rare to see a series like this in a shonen magazine, and the premise of it being centered around a deaf girl who is bullied is just completely original. Like, I can't think of a single thing that has ever done something like that before. And it's kind of hard to categorize this manga because, it could fit into a lot of genres. It could fit into slice of life. It could fit into romance maybe a little bit. But the main way I look at this series is that it is a redemption story for Shoya. He completely hates himself for 6 years, completely regretting everything he did. Then he is finally given a chance to set things straight when he meets up with Nisha Mia again. Then he decides that he is going to dedicate his life to making it up to her. And this story, as much as you hate him in the first volume, this story is just so well written. Like, I plowed through the story in like 2 or 3 days. I could not stop reading it. I always wanted to know what was going to happen, how these characters would end up. It was just so crazy, and I really enjoyed reading this manga. Anyway, so moving on to characters, I did say just how much of an asshole Shoya is at the beginning, and while it is still very unforgivable what he did back in the day, he does start to redeem himself and he becomes a bit more of a likable character, even though you're not meant to, you know, completely sympathize with him, because even he knows what he did was just terrible. But even so, you kind of want him to succeed in his goal to make it up to Nisha Mia, because she did not deserve it, and he knows that, and he's trying to make it all better. Now, Nisha Mia is a very interesting character because she has just had a really bad and traumatizing childhood. Her father abandoned the family when they were young and they found out she was deaf, and now she just lives alone with her mother, her grandmother, and her sister. And her mother is just super overprotective of her after, you know, what happened back when she was in 6th grade. And she's the only one who was working to support this family, so oftentimes she's very stressed out and very grumpy. But even after all of that, Nisha Mia is just such a kind character. Like, she accepts Shoya's apology, like, almost right away. I mean, you know, like, she runs away from him at first, but then you know, they start to talk some more, and, you know, she just wants to forget about the whole thing. Now, eventually, Shoya and Nisha Mia start to connect with some of their old classmates from back in grade 6, and we get introduced to their characters. Because if you aren't familiar with how Japanese schools works, like, the people who are in your elementary school classes, chances are they will not follow you all the way up through high school, because there's, like, they all go to separate places and stuff, so, you know, you do lose contact with a bunch of people. And a lot of these characters are really well written. They have a bunch of different personalities. Some of them are assholes, some of them are very nice. And then there is, of course, the first friend that Shoya makes in 6 years, which is, of course, Steven Universe. Now, Steven Universe wants to be a film director and to create his own film. And surprisingly, a lot of the plot focuses on these guys making the film, and the way it ties in with the way that Shoya wants to make everything up to Nisha Mia, it works really well. And don't say this guy isn't Steven Universe, because just look at him. He is 100% Steven Universe, like, even with his personality and the way he talks, like, he's Steven Universe. Next up is the art, and, you know, for a series like this, the art isn't really what's important, just because the story is well written. It's not an action series, so, you know, a whole bunch of crazy things aren't happening, and the series looks really good. Like, the character models are nice and simple, but they're still very detailed. A lot of the backgrounds are really nice. There are a couple times where the characters may look a little bit awkward, but this series really doesn't need that great art to tell the story. And the fact that the art is pretty good is just like an added bonus. So those were my thoughts on the Silent Voice guys, and this series was just fantastic. I loved every minute of it. I won't say it's one of my favorite series of all time, just because, you know, I do prefer, you know, some action, science fiction manga, but this series was just incredible. And because it's so short, I would highly recommend you go check out this series right now, because it is definitely worth a read. And with that, I give it my final score of 5 ears out of 5. Now, at the time I'm making this video, A Silent Voice is currently being released in English by Kodansha. I believe 3 volumes are out now, and the entire series will be out by May 2016. Now, there's only 7 volumes coming out, so going out and buying them really won't cost all that much money, and it's definitely worth it. However, if you'd prefer to just binge read this series like I did, I'm very glad to say that the entire series of Silent Voice is available on Crunchyroll for premium users. What's great about this is that even if you don't have a Crunchyroll premium membership, you could, like, just sign up for the free trial, or, you know, pay $7 a month to have access to this entire series for free, as well as support the industry. So that's just like paying $7 to read this fantastic series instead of, you know, like $70 to pick up all the volumes. You get to support the series that way, and then you have the added bonus of having access to friggin' everything on Crunchyroll, which is just an insane amount of things. So yeah, if you don't want to wait for all the English volumes to come out, then definitely check out Crunchyroll. It has a great selection of all these other manga, including A Silent Voice. So with that, thank you guys so much for watching my review of A Silent Voice, and I am very excited to announce that my next full series review will be for Bakuman. I will see you then.
I can show you